All right, Mike Holmes here at ReachKeep.com, and welcome to the Connection Card Workshop. So glad that you've made it to this online training event, and we've got some great things in store for you. So thank you for being with us here today. We're going to be talking about what a connection card is, and this is just we'll get into details, but the brief thing is it's just a simple card that every single person gets. It's used for collecting data, it's used for really bonding to your people, and it's used for taking action in your church and helping your people to be more engaged. So we'll go into the details of that. We're going to be going through the details and the exact way we print our cards and how we go through and make everything happen, from what it looks like on a computer to what it looks like coming out of the printer. I'm going to give you a sample of a whole bunch of different ones that we have done, so you'll be able to use those samples and take any of our ideas and use those, and that will be great for you. I also am going to be spending some time with you kind of showing you where this pathway leads. In other words, we're going to take you down the trail of how to create these things, but then we're going to tell you what's at the end of the trail. And there are some great things that you get, including volunteer sign up. The connection card gives you the opportunity to know the prayer requests of your people, feedback from a variety of different things. A lot of spiritual insights come from these cards, as well as just plain old practical data, so that you can connect with people through their emails and through their cell phones and through their Facebook names and things like that. And then at the very end, I'm going to give you just kind of a little specialty thing that helps you see what really makes them really zing, really work well. We have several workshops, we have several actual videos, training videos, podcasts that we've already done ahead of time that are kind of supplemental to this workshop. And if you go back on YouTube, you'll be able to find those. Type in the word connection card on the YouTube channel. You'll be able to find those. All of those three will be very helpful for you to really kind of get a bigger grasp on what is going on. And of course, this one, as well as any of the other ones, if you'd like to show these to your people or to some of your leadership team so they kind of get a grasp on what is going on, feel free to do that. Also, at the very end, I'm going to give those of you that are interested in kind of a little deeper dive. In other words, how to just really make some of this happen. We have some online coaching that we do, and it would be very helpful for you to listen to that and see if there's something that would be helpful for you to kind of to move forward in making these things happen, where we are actually on the phone with you, Zoom calling with you, and helping you get things done. So anyway, let's get rolling, and let's see what these connection cards are all about. All right, this is Mike here, and we're going to get into the nitty-gritty on how we create these connection cards. Before we go too far, we have been talking about the workshop. We also have what we call the connection card guidebook, and this is a little picture of it here. Or actually, let me just go to it real quick and let you see what it looks like. If you've not received this, you can go to reachkeep.com/connection and get your free copy. We'll email it right off to you. That's reachkeep.com/connection. So it is a 7-page booklet that goes through and demos a lot of actually what we're doing here on in this workshop. It tells you how to do it and why people would benefit and kind of all the nuts and bolts of things. So you can take a look at this guidebook. Again, just go to reachkeep.com/connection. And it's got a bunch of samples in it too, and I will show you some more samples later, but there are some right here that you will want to see. So, all right, let's jump into how exactly we print these connection cards. And I'm going to go over here to our word processor document. You probably have something like this. I am on a Macintosh computer. And basically what we have, any word processor does this. This is a 2-page document, and it is divvied up into quarters because we're going to be cutting this into 4 equal pieces. And I want to show you what is actually on the 2 different sides. We have one side that is pretty well static. It's always going to be the same, very little changes go on here, and those can be pre-printed if need be. The other side is the one that is dynamic, and we will get into what exactly is on this particular page here in just a moment. But on the static side, we have basically a place where it has for their prayer requests is My Prayer Requests, and then it has guest information or updates. And we try to gather a lot of information from our people because these are connection cards and we want to connect with people as much as possible. So we have a place for their mailing address and their zip code, their physical address and their zip code. You may not need it quite that way, but out west where we live, physical addresses and mailing addresses are different. We have a post office box. Everybody goes to the post office to get their mail every day, and you get a little key and you open up the box, and that's where your mailing address is, but you might live at some other place, and we don't have any rural delivery out there. We also get their home number and their cell number. Of course, most of this now is a cell number. Very few home numbers anymore, especially with the young families that you're trying to reach. Another important thing is their Facebook name. We try to gather this Facebook name information so that we are able to connect them to some of our different groups that we have. We have a Sinclair Baptist page that tells everything about our church, very kind of generic event-based information. And then we have a Sinclair Baptist local family group, we call it. And it is a group that is made up of just people who we've got their name, we've invited them to, and they are regular attenders. And we give them more current updates of, hey, don't forget next Sunday is our potluck dinner. Don't forget there's a funeral on Tuesday, or things along that line. So a little bit more common information that would be just for the people who attend. The next line we have is, how did you hear about us? And I recommend that you put that on your card. Very informational, good stuff. Find out where they will put people's names there. They'll put website. They'll put the signs you had set up. We get that all the time. Then another one here is list the names of those who came with you today. And this is helpful for us identifying just the groups of people that come, because we tend to get them in families, or a bunch of friends will come with another friend and they will write that down. So then we have a couple boxes. Is this new information or are you a first-time guest? And they check that. We do from time to time work on getting new information from our people. So they don't fill this out. If you have regular folks, they won't fill this out every single Sunday. But we do sometimes say, hey, we're going to want everybody to go ahead and put your cell number in there, your most current, your best cell phone number. We would like to have that information and get that right there. That's very, very important that we get that. Now, we do capture their email address. That's on the other side. And so let's just flip the card over. And basically, when we flip the card over in printing, it goes to this format. So you really have the 4 up there, and then this one is going to be, and we're going to copy this in here. Now, the information on this side is very important. This is current information. These cards are not pre-printed, so in other words, you're not going to have a print shop print you 1,000 of these so that you can be more efficient. We're not interested in efficiency. We're interested in effectiveness, and the effectiveness of the connection card can be seen primarily on this side of the card. We change the date every week. We make that good and obvious so that we know and people know that that is a current thing, and that whatever they're putting on there, we want that to be current and up to speed. We have them put their name here, and we ask them to write their name on their card, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit when we talk about how to promote the cards. Then we ask for their email address, and we let them know that we've got something special for them, got a special link we're going to be sending them. And after church, we send a special link to everybody, and there's a variety of different things that you can watch, you can learn about in one of the YouTube videos that we did, the one that has to do with the single best engagement technique for connection cards. And that's a very, very important thing. So we get their email address right here. I ask them to print it real nice. And then we have what we call next step. And this is a lot of the power of the connection card is found right here. We try to get these next steps figured out early in the week so that we have time to print these cards and get them done. And there are a lot of different things that you can put on here, and I will give you more examples a little bit later, but let me show you a couple here. First of all, this one here, my prayer life could use some help. Please pray for me to be developing spiritually. This particular line was solicited from the pastor, so we know what he's preaching on. He's obviously on that day in March or May, whenever it was, he preached on prayer, and this was part of his sort of call to action or invitation, and you'll get a lot of people that will check this type of box, and then I'll give you some other ideas on how to put some other things in there to get people to fill in the blank a little bit more and say, hey, I need prayer more specifically in this particular area. These would be response to the sermon prayer requests, where these prayer requests here are a little bit more general, pray for my neighbor, pray for my uncle, pray for my gallbladder, whatever it happens to be. So anyway, back here to my next step, I need some prayer. I need some help. I need to make a decision. I need to move forward, etc. Now, these next couple have to do with volunteer opportunities or signups, and these again are solicited from our team ahead of time, like what is going on this week that we would want people to enroll in and to get excited about. So we have this one here. I would like to volunteer with the food pantry outreach next Tuesday, the 20th. So this would be the idea of you're signing somebody up, and they're going to sign up on this card. We often use signups with a clipboard, and that's a very good way to get people to sign up, but oftentimes you'll miss them. Where here at this time, they will do this, and then if they have to leave right away, they have signed up for that. Then once this information is done, we've got this, the food pantry people will find out who all checked the box. We will compile that. We'll talk about that in our action steps in a little bit. The last one on this particular card is I am interested in attending the Children's Workers Training event next month. Please send me the info. And this, of course, then would be given to the children's worker training people, who would then contact these people and say, don't forget, here's when the seminar is. We would like you to come Saturday morning. We'd like you here, like there. And we're able to connect with people much more. So you can see all of these really deal with this idea of connection. And we want to be connected. So we take all of this information, we create this card, and sometimes it takes a little while to figure out what you want to put on there. But we do that earlier in the week. We finish that up by Saturday, and then we simply just copy and paste this to the 4 spots. I'll do that for you real easy. So you move this over here like that, and on a Mac, it's just a simple hold down the Option key. Let's see, hold down, you get both of them selected, and then move them both down like that. So we have these little yellow cut lines here we've put in ahead of time. Those are non-printing lines, but those are there to help us align everything. And then we're able to take this off and send this to the printer. So we send it off to our printer, and I'll show you what that looks like here in just a second. All right, I'm here at the printer. The way that we do this is we hit this thing, and we make sure that we hit the word two-sided there so that it's going to print both sides. So let me just do one copy for you here. And here is my little old printer. Let's see if we can catch it coming out. Okay. And this printer actually does them back to back now, which is really nice. It is something that is a wonderful thing. All right, so here you are, and there's the other side. Now I printed this one on normal paper just to show you what that looks like, but normally we print these on cardstock, and I buy these packets of cardstock here, different colors, and we change the different colors every week just for management purposes. It helps us to know a little bit more what's going on. It keeps track of them that way. All right, and one last step is chop, chop, to cut those things into fours. Now you may have a fancier paper cutter than what we have, but this one works just fine. You can fold them or cut them, and actually we have some volunteers that do some of this for us. We have someone cut them and insert them into our sermon notes, so which would be the equivalent of a bulletin. So you take them, you cut them into fourths, and then you put them into the bulletins, and then they're handed out as people enter into our chapel or our seating area, what you might call your auditorium or sanctuary. So scissors works great, but whatever it takes to get them into fourths, that works great too. All right, let's move forward. Now I want to teach you how to actually get people to fill these things out. All right, I want to go through a couple of these cards and let you see some of the different way that we do responses. And some of these you'll see the prayer requests, and some you'll see where they fill in. So this is my next step. Please pray for me to be influential. Here's one where they can sign up for just all sorts of different things. And I've got a lot of these covered up because these obviously got names and confidential stuff on them. And these are over the last few years. I am making plans to attend Mr. Mike's evening growth group in the Park Oak Cafe. Today, I accept the challenge from Jesus to respond differently. So you see how we have them fill in the blank there, and it's not all pre-done. So that's just one way. Let's see, I consider making the following resolution for the new year. So study the Bible, give Christ my life, lead my family. You can't even read the rest of that. Maybe you can. Next step, our family is planning to participate in, and here's several options. Like I say, these are all things. Take some doing to think this through. Here's prayer request that I would hear and obey God's heart as I begin a new job. I thought that one was pretty cool. This one here just had all sorts of stuff written on it. I like this one, prayer request, to be still and to listen. I thought that was sweet. Let me jump over here to this side. Here it is, pray. I'll be praying for the community's youth in the following, and these are some things. I'd like to sponsor a child to go to day camp, so we would follow up with that person and let them know that we need X number of kids or certain kid to go to day camp. Here's one. I'm considering making following resolution for the new year. Please pray for me to become involved at church. Those things are pretty cool when you get that kind of stuff. My next step, making plans to attend the candlelight service. I'd like to be contacted about this or more information about that. You can see how that works. Here we go. Let's see. Pray that I quit smoking and be a better person. I thought that was a very good one. I'm planning to be at Waffle Sunday. I'm going to bring some stuff, that type of thing. This one here, I wanted to go into this right here. That little cross right there means an awful lot to us. So we probably during that particular day gave some type of gospel invitation, and we wanted to follow up with people individually after the service or during the later in the week, and we had them draw a little cross on their card. So that was kind of a neat thing here. Here's a prayer request for myself, my family members, friends, and all suffering from alcoholism and addiction, that we may seek and do His will. Okay, so there's a bunch of them. Let me lay out another bunch, and I'll go through some more. All right, hey, another batch here. Please pray for me that there be harmony in my family. I'll be a good example and a leader promoting harmony in my family. So that's a good one. Here's just a plain one. It says, I'm making plans to come to the potluck, and you would put the certain amount of stuff in there that you wanted to bring. I'm making plans to attend next week's addiction and recovery thing. They put the date on there. I like this one. Please pray for me to be faithful Bible reader in 2019. And then this is an interesting one we did. This week I will publicly display a Bible verse at. And then we had my home, my business, my vehicle, my wherever, so it shows some of the different things. This one here, please send me the memory circuit and verse list that Mr. Mike spoke of in the message. This takes some planning ahead of time, but we created a verse list and a thing of memory verses. We call it a memory circuit. And we had that all ready to go. And we could have handed it out, but we really wanted to keep the connection with them. So it says, please send me that. And then their phone number would be on there. This one here, I actually got kind of the whole card. This is pretty typical of some of our visitors that here for the first time. They want an outlet. And there's all sorts of prayer requests on here. May I be forgiven all the sins I committed by myself towards others. Goes down at the bottom. I give my all to you, Lord. Please hear my prayers. Amen. Kind of an interesting insight into somebody that you get on some of these cards. So let's see. Oh, this is one here that worked really good. Next step. Well, here it is. Today I've made my choice. I choose Christ. So we have that in there. So there was a gospel invitation, and I think we spoke on Calvary. It was a week before Easter. And then we had this thing that says, to help us plan for Easter services next week, please indicate how many you expect to bring for each available service. So we had people kind of fill out a little grid. So you can see it doesn't have to be normal, but it helped us to know for planning, and then it also helped us to make sure that we were that people, once they sign up, they tend to show up for those things. So here's another one. Next step, this day I choose to believe. And actually someone crossed it out or put we have chosen to believe. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. Next week I'm planning them coming to the Cinco de Mayo picnic. So they're going to bring some food. Very good. Anyway, another one, sign up, a lot of different things people can sign up for. Another gospel one here. Today I understand I am placing my trust in Calvary's Christ. And then I'm interested in Easter baptism. Please get me the information packet. So powerful thing here. Let's see, I was baptized a Mormon, but I never really felt I belonged. I love how Mr. Mike prays, upbeat. Never sounding like it's gonna burden to talk with God. I don't feel judged when I walk in the door. Thank you for being whatever that says. So I just thought that was cool. There's a cross again, okay? And this is another way we do a gospel invitation, and we follow up with those people. And then this particular one here, next step, has some different things here. I want to be a good leader. And the middle one here, very important one. I am planning on attending next week to hear Pastor Josh speak about Joseph and forgiveness. And then, of course, there's another sign up. But when you do that one that way, there's just a real easy way for people to kind of commit to being at the church service the next week. So, again, make sure you do a lot of those where you say, next week I'll be speaking on such and such. But you basically put it into them saying it in first person, I am planning on attending, and then they check the box there. So another great way to kind of keep your attendance up is to just make sure people are committing to the service and you know what you're speaking on. So anyway, there you go. Some good ideas. All right, what we want to do in this little section is I want to give you the ways that we use to get these cards turned in. In other words, to get a high percentage of them. Many people that have started using the cards, or actually before they started using them, said, oh, we'd never get our people to do that, or my people will not fill out things, or whatever. And I want to speak to that specifically and teach you just some of the techniques that we use on how to get a high percentage of these turned in. Now, what I mean by high percentage is that nearly everybody does it, and that comes with some expectations, and you as the leader are going to have to do this, and there's going to be some training involved in this because this is a different kind of a different animal than what we are used to in some regards. In fact, at the end of this little section, what I want to do is I promise to show you something kind of a little zing that helps you really make it happen, and I'm going to show you kind of like how not to do it. So stay tuned and we'll get into that. So the way that you get these cards turned in is let's start with was just the three type of people that would be involved with the cards. First of all, make sure that you have relevant stuff in there, okay? In other words, you're asking them to do things that make sense and that are new and that are fresh, and people will grab hold of that once you have fresh things on there. This is not just a visitor's card that's been pre-printed and it has, I would like a visit from the pastor, or I'm interested in baptism, or something like that. This has some very pertinent things that we've already discussed. So the first person that can do this is the announcer guy. Now, in many churches, the pastor makes some of the announcements, and we'll talk about the pastor again at the end here in a moment. But whoever your announcer person is, that they would stand up and that they would be kind of there at sort of the beginning of the service, and sometimes it actually is towards the end of the service when you do the bulk of your announcements. But that person would stand up there and they would say, and basically the way that I do it is I'd say, hey, thank you for being with us here today. This would be if it's at the early part. Thank you for being with us here today. It was a great song we just sang, and I'd like for you to do a favor. When you came in, you should have got one of our worship bulletins, or prayer notes, or whatever you kind of call it. Your bulletin, sermon notes is what we call ours. But inside there's a little card. If you go ahead and take that card out. Okay, yes. If you go ahead and open it up, and anyone needs a card? Okay, good. Let's make sure we get some. And you'd have your people hand them out. So in other words, you're handing out something that is pertinent, and you're waiting for them to take it out. So your announcer guy would do that. Now that can be kind of early or that can be late. And then they would, and I'll show you kind of what they say here in just a little bit, sort of the way that they get that. But that would be the person who's making some announcements, and they would say, we've got some very important little card that I put in your notes in there, your sermon notes, and I'd like you to go ahead and take that out. And let's make sure that everyone gets one. Husbands, wives get one. Kids, if you'd like one too, we'll make sure we get one for you. That is just fine. We're going to be filling out a couple things here in just a moment, and we'll be collecting these at the end of the service. So you let people know that there's kind of a process. So the announcer person would do that. Another way is when you're trying to get feedback, like someone to sign up for something, and I'll go through kind of the four main ways, the four main things that you ask for here in just a moment, is to have the person who is like the event coordinator or the person who's in charge of, whatever it is that you're getting them to sign up, to have them come forward. And so you would, while you're doing your announcements, you would say, you got your cards, go ahead, Mr. McGillicuddy, come on up here. And he would come on up and go, hey guys, I'm really excited about that men's prayer breakfast, and there's a little spot for it right here, and I'd like for you to take a moment and just go ahead and put check marks on the bottom box there. If you're going to be able to make it to the men's breakfast, that is coming up this weekend, 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Looking forward to it. After the breakfast, we're going to go out and we're going to bring your guns, and we're going to go out and sight our rifles in. We're going to do some shooting. We're going to have a little fun time. In fact, we call it Bible, Bullets, and Bacon. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So go ahead and sign on up on your card. So you're having the announcer, not necessarily the announcer person, but the event person come up and do that. And when you ask someone to come up to the stage, and it might be a lady who's in charge of the food processing for your food ministry or whatever, when you have a person come up, people are suddenly paying attention, and they're asking for them to fill it out. So you're creating a high level of interest in this. And again, it takes a little bit of coordination to make that happen. But once you've done this a few times, the people will understand that they need to come up and they need to promote their little box that they're trying to get someone to sign up for. So the first one is the announcer guy. The second one is the what we would call like the event person that is doing that. And the third person that can really make a difference on these cards is the pastor or the preacher. Now, you might double as some of that, but what I mean by that is that you are going to be asking for some type of response to your message. And again, I'll go through these four things in just a second, but as the pastor, you're going to be saying, and that's why I want you to fill out your card right there and share your burden with me. It might be sharing the prayer request so I can pray. It might be sharing, the response of some sort of the areas that you need some prayer in. But That's why I need you to fill out this card. And you as the pastor, you're pouring out your heart in an emotional way. All right, so let's go through the four things, and these are kind of to be helpful for you. The very first one is kind of the idea of getting people to fill out the prayer request portion of it. And this is where your announcer guy or you're the pastor, you would come up and you say, well, good morning, boys, a great song we sang. Thank you so much. And we've got some special things that we do at our church. One of the things we do at church that's different than anywhere else in the world is we are a spiritual entity, and we have access to do something that no one else can do. You can't do it. The NFL can't do it. Pop music can't do it. Television can't do it. We pray. Okay, we are people that pray, and we would like to be praying for you. And how many of you have maybe a special burden on your heart right now? Someone that you know needs prayer. Someone that's heavy on your heart, and we need to pray for them. Yes. Okay. Tell you what I'd like you to do. Why don't you take your cards out right now? Go ahead and pull your cards out. Take your card, and I'd like you to share the prayer request right there. Pray for my aunt, pray for my knee, pray for my finances. Whatever is burdening you, I want you to share that with us, and our team will be praying for you this week specifically. We'll be praying for whatever you put there. If you'd like for us to pray for you also by name, make sure that you put your name right here on this side, and we will be praying for you and your specific request. So go ahead and take a moment now, take your card out, and share that prayer request. So you do that as the leader. You do that. It's a very simple way to do it. Another kind of a line, an opening line. It's like, hey, it's great to see everybody here. I see a lot of smiles, a lot of friendliness and all that. But something I know that even though you're smiling on the outside, sometimes you've got a hurt on the inside. And one of the things we do here at our church is we lift up one another. And we do that by helping each other, but we also do that through prayer. And we have a special card in your bulletin. If you go ahead and take your card out, pull your bulletin out. And if you don't have one, make sure you get one of these. Ushers, could you make sure that all our folks get one of these? We want to make sure, because I know that you've got some heaviness on your heart, and we want to pray for you. So I want you to share that right there on that line where it says prayer requests. And then go ahead and put your name on the front of the card. If you're here as a first-time guest as well, go ahead and put your information on there. We appreciate it. We have a special gift for everybody that we mail out on Monday. And if you can put your mailing address right there, we'll make sure we get that to you. But please, I know you're smiling on the outside, but I know many of us are hurting on the inside. Let's take a moment now and let's fill out our prayer requests. And I have found that at this time, you can even just kind of give I'm going to give you about 30 seconds of silence to do this, or you can play just a little bit of song or whatever. But people will take time to do that. So what I'm showing you here is that there's leadership involved in this, and this is how you do it. So it is the prayer. I want your prayer request, okay? The second really kind of angle there, which is very similar, but it is I care for you, and I am caring, and I want you to share what I can be caring for you specifically about. So it's kind of the, share a prayer and share a care, those two type of things. The third one is the idea of getting feedback. And this is where your announcer or your event coordinator would come up, and they would say, hey, we've got this big event coming, and you can sign up here and sign up there. And we got room here, how many people, how many kids, and what are you going to bring? And, what time can you come? All of that is kind of the idea of gathering data. Many times you can ask some questions too, and you can say, hey, let me ask you a question. We're doing a little research on possibly doing some ads on the radio, and I wonder if you just take a moment right here in this little bottom corner here, just write down a radio station that a lot of people listen to in our community. You don't maybe necessarily listen to it, but you hear it a lot, like when you go to businesses. So you just put that in the bottom corner there, whatever the call address is of that radio station. I'd appreciate that. Or what's the last, podcast that you listen to? Or there's many different things that you can solicit and kind of get the data for. This would also include, don't forget to sign up for the big Easter event. We're going to have a Saturday night service, and you can put the number of people coming on Saturday night and how many kids are going to be coming. That'll help our children ministry to be prepared. and know what's going on. And then if you're going to come on one of our 3 Sunday morning services, go ahead and put that in there. And let us know the number of children that you're bringing as well. That will be helpful for us. So that's the idea of signing up for something. Or as we mentioned when we were going through the cards, the specific cards, it's like, don't forget, next week I'm going to be preaching on how to raise stepchildren. And if you're interested in coming to the stepchildren, go ahead and mark the box there and just say, Pastor, I'm planning on being there to hear the message on how to raise stepkids. And I think that that's an important thing. And that'll be an encouragement to me. I appreciate that. And I'm looking forward to giving you this message. So go ahead and let me know if you're going to be here next week. In other words, these are just great ways to get kind of feedback, the idea of feedback. The last one is the idea of gaining some level of commitment. And this is where you would have this pre-thought out. This would be a kind of a call to action from your sermon. Maybe in addition to if you do a come forward style invitation, or you're doing a hand raise type of invitation, this would be just another level of that type of thing. And it would be, I am going to pick up some, maybe you're handing out, doing the gospel thing, okay? And you're going to be giving out some gospel tracts. And you're going to give, after the service, I'm going to be giving out a bunch of gospel tracts. So I'm going to have them on the table there. You can take a look at them. And I would like for you, let me know how many gospel tracts you think you could hand out this week. So if you think you can hand out 3 of them, that'd be great. Think you can hand out 5 of them or 10, whatever. Put that number. That'd be encouraging to us to know how many tracts we're going to need to have for the next time we do this. But go ahead and sign up for that. Or I will be, reading X number of minutes in my Bible. I'm going to read, 5 minutes every day in my Bible. I'm going to, witness to a friend. I'm going to talk to a coworker. I'm going to talk to, somebody that I know, a neighbor. But you can get kind of the spiritual response. Many times you can kind of keep it a fill in the blank type of thing. And if you've preached about a variety of burdens, maybe you're burdened. Let's do the hurt one, okay? Maybe you have been hurt by something you did stupid. Maybe you've been hurt by somebody else. Maybe you've been hurt by a system or some random thing that happened to you. But you have a response box that says, please pray for me. I have been hurt deeply by the following. And, I don't tell them put their name, but I have been hurt by a friend. I have been hurt by a system. I have been hurt by randomness. I have been hurt by health issues, because I want to pray for your hurts. I want to pray that you get delivered. Now, next week, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about how to handle that hurt and what you're going to do. So check that box as well. I will be here next week to learn how to handle my hurt. And so you see what I'm saying here? You're really picking up a lot of information from people that you don't normally get. You wouldn't get at an altar call. You wouldn't necessarily, get by just talking to 1 or 2 people after church. You're going to get this by spending a lot of time with a lot of people, going through their cards and learning things about them. And then you can respond to those cards. And the secret to response is really, and we mentioned this already, is the idea of everybody signed up for the event coordinator gets all those email addresses. Everybody that signed up for the, to help with the boxes, that person gets the thing. Everyone coming to the breakfast guy gets all that information, all of those kind of things. But everybody that has a hurt or whatever, that would go to the pastor, pastoral staff, and then you would text them and you would say, I just want to let you know, I have been praying for your situation that you marked on your card, and I am here for you. And I really am looking forward to seeing you next week at church, and we're going to be talking about how to handle the hurt. So you text them with that. That's the response of how you do that. So all of these are the ways that you do this. Now, I promised I'd kind of give you this idea of, how to really put the zing into it. And the zing, you can probably see it, okay? Hopefully you can kind of catch the passion here. And this is, what I call the leadership excitement. If you are excited about these things and you are fired up about this, this will work. Okay, now how not to do it? The how not to do it is just the first one would be just silence. In other words, people there's a card and they get their little worship bulletin and there's a card and it falls on the floor or whatever. They don't even know what to do with it. It's just sitting there. They kind of know, well, that's my name and that's the stuff there, but you don't talk about it. You don't make any emphasis about it. You don't do anything. The other way, and it sometimes defaults to this, is there's not a lot of emphasis on this. And this is if the card becomes very static and you kind of have the same thing on there all the time. Please pray for me to get right with God. Please pray for me to get baptized. I need to talk to the pastor personally. Just kind of the same kind of questions. You want to have very pointed, specific question and pointed, specific volunteer opportunities that are different every week. And if you don't change those up, what happens is you end up with a very boring card, and you don't want to touch boring. And so you just kind of come in and you go, the announcer guy don't forget some information on your card. We'd like to go ahead and fill that out. And that's it. Okay, that is not leadership excitement. That is not the way to do it. The last way not to do it is when you delegate it to someone, and pardon me for saying this out loud, but you delegate it to someone who's a loser, okay, and they don't know how to be excited about it, and they ignore it, or they just go, don't forget to fill out your card, okay, and they don't do anything about it. And by the way, if you delegate and you have a person that's constantly doing that, you need to train them on how to do it the right way, okay? They're not the loser. Probably you and I are the loser, okay? We're the ones that have not trained somebody how to do it. So what you want to do is have that person and show them exactly how you want it done. And I remember when we had a couple of years ago, we had some different guys that would open our service. We kind of started the service with a different person up there. And it was just a guy that would stand up and go, hey, my name's so-and-so. Welcome to church. So good to have you here. I live in this community, and I've chosen to go to this church because God's doing some great things here. And boom, 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 boom. And they would just do some things, and they go, and now let's sing this song. And they would turn it over to the song leader. But it was like this fresh person face up there, and it added a level of excitement. It was really good. And I knew that if I did not tell them what to say and how to say it the right way, that they wouldn't do it the right way. And they just go, well, Mike asked me to stand up here and say something kind of nice. So good morning, everybody. Here comes, now we're going to sing a song. Oh, by the way, I love my church. No, you want to teach people how to do it, and you want them to watch this kind of video. You want to watch this, in fact, take this training and send it to them so that they can do this. So in the workshop, you are training people with this workshop, and people are knowing that they need to take the card out. And then you go, all right, everyone take your card out. Go ahead. And have them look around for a second or two. Teach them how to do that so that they create the excitement and train your people. Discipleship is not just teaching people how to pray and witness. Discipleship is teaching people how to function properly in a local church. And you and I need to learn how to function properly in a local church and have some excitement. So the secret here is what I call is leadership zing. It's the idea of making sure you know what is coming in on that. And when you get that sheet, and it's got all the information on it, and it's got people signed up for this and people signed up for that, and people that have prayer needs here, people have prayer needs there, you're going to go, my word, how did I run this church without knowing this information in the past? These cards will be an awesome asset for you. And so that is how you kind of get people to turn in a high percentage of cards, okay? Some real simple stuff, but just follow these directions and you'll be able to get a lot of folks turn things in, and you will be making a huge difference in their lives. All right. Hey, thank you. Thank you for attending our workshop here. Before we close up, got a couple closing words here. I want to talk about how to get started on this. Getting started on anything new is often a challenge, and it takes, a lot of leadership. Now, we're here to help you, and with our Academy students, we Zoom regularly and talk regularly. If you're not one of our regulars, I encourage you to maybe sign up and get involved next time our things are open. But it does take some leadership, and it does take the idea of a pastor being more than just a preacher. And I've talked about this numerous times, but it's the idea that you are a developer, that you're really moving people from A to B. You're moving them forward. And yes, you're a pastor, and yes, you're a preacher, but think of yourself as someone that really is developing people. And this system is something that is developing your church as a whole, plus all these little individuals. There's all sorts of individual feedback you're going to get from these that are going to be just extremely helpful. So I want to talk about how to get started. Now, when I travel many times at churches, what I do is, and to say that this doesn't work is not necessarily true, because it does work if you use the right techniques. I print up some blank cards like this, take them with me. In fact, I'll be in a church in Utah this weekend, and I will be speaking over there, and I will hand a card out to everybody. And while I don't have sign-ups on there because I don't know what they're doing that week, I will do the prayer request thing, and then I'll let them know that I will be praying for them as I return back to my home state. And so people are anxious to share that type of thing. So starting up and getting it going and having like some intentionality and like, here's what we're doing with these things is the most important thing. Now, you may not have fancy cards, okay? And what I did, and what I have done several times in churches, is I have just taken 3x5 cards and handed those out to everybody and had them share a prayer request. I had them just write their first name on the top of it just so I know who they are, and then share a prayer request, and I pray for those as I go home. But that works very well. But just the idea, you can start with something simple. It doesn't have to be pre-printed and all that. If you're looking to get visitor information and Facebook data and mobile phones, there's a lot of different techniques, and I want to make sure that you remember to go back, and I'll put these on the screen here. Make sure you go back and watch these three things. The first one has to do with the mistakes that newbies make, and if you're new to this, you definitely want to watch that one and make sure you get the right emphasis on things. The next one has to do with the 5 things that really make your connection cards really flow and work well, and that is a great one as well. Make sure that you catch all of those and begin to sharpen up, and that's probably more for an advanced person, someone who's already got them going, and you're going to start to kind of sharpen up your emphasis in each of these particular areas. The last one that I recorded is the one about just really the single best thing for engagement with a connection card, and make sure you catch that one. It talks about the idea of how you can use this card. This very little piece of paper can begin the real beginning of discipleship with an individual, because you're going to have them write something on it, and then you're going to respond to them that day, at that afternoon. You're basically going to be sending them something, and we go through the details of that. And you're also going to be asking a question, and they're going to be responding back. And by the end of, I've had many times by the end of a Sunday or by Monday or Tuesday, I have really had a lot of good back and forth with a person and engaged with them in quite a way. And it was all, through your phone, through doing it through your phone, because that is the way new young families work. This is their communication device. This is the thing they're going to use. And to learn how to text and go back and forth and communicate with them is just an excellent thing. So you're going to want to watch those 3 things and go back and make sure you click on those links and go back and catch some of that. And then share some of those portions of it with your church people. Make sure that you take time to, watch the 4 minutes of this one, the 5 minutes of that one with some of your, a guy wrote me just the other day, he's doing it with his adult Sunday school class, which is kind of some of his main people, and he's kind of trying to get them used to it. So you can share it in a Sunday night service, you could do it in a workers meeting, but these are all some great things. So getting started is a great way to do that. Another way to kind of get things going is what we call just getting surveys and getting feedback. And you want to make sure that you become kind of a feedback kind of person, that you are anxiously awaiting what your people have to say, that they have something important to say. And I created a list. Let me go to it here. Don't know if I can bring this up on the screen or not. No, it doesn't look like I can. But if you're interested in this list, please shoot me a note at info@reachkeep.com, and I will get this to you. But this is the idea of getting feedback. And again, this would be done just maybe on a 3x5 card. And I got like about a dozen of them here, and I'll read through them for you. And you could just do like one every once in a while. Do them on Sunday nights if you're more comfortable with that crowd. You can do them on Sunday mornings, but Sunday nights or Wednesday nights, midweek stuff, be a great thing for getting some of the feedback. And when you become a person that wants feedback, then you're going to get more feedback on these cards. So in other words, to get started. It doesn't have to be fancy, but you have to be like, hey, I really want this information. It's important to me. So let me read through a couple of these for you here. What is your favorite sermon in the last year or so? Just the topic and the text, if the person happens to remember it. What is your favorite illustration or story? This is interesting because sometimes you'll say, oh, I remember when you told that story about, whatever. And it's interesting just kind of get that sort of feedback. This will help with some of your preaching. Let's see. Let me scoot this over so I can read all of these. What is one of the most helpful things that you learned this last year? Okay, approximately. And what I always do is when I write those questions, I'll say, what is the most helpful thing? Because then it's got to be the specific thing. But what might be one of the most helpful things that you learned this year? Kind of keep it open-ended so people will write down, one thing or maybe a couple different things. So that's an important one. Let's see. Here's a good one. This is really interesting feedback. Name 3 topics that you think would be important for new believers to know all about. In other words, you're talking to your church people, but you're saying name 3 topics, give me a few things that you think that would be very important for new believers to learn all about. And you'd be surprised at some of the topics that you get here. And again, these are some things to kind of stimulate some of your sermon development and some things along that line. This is a good one too. What was your favorite non-preaching event? In other words, of all the things we did in the last year or so, what's one of the favorite things you did? And that would include picnics and international dinners and youth fest things that we've done. What's one of the favorite things that you have participated in this last year, other than just the typical Sunday type teaching that we do? That's a really neat feedback thing. So when you start to get this feedback, it's really helpful. Let me give you another one here. And again, if you want all these, just go ahead and shoot me a note at info@reachkeep.com, and I'll get that to you. Let's see. If I could print a verse or make a cool plaque or wall hanging, what would you want it to be? In other words, if me and the pastor say, hey, we're going to print up 100 verses, or we're going to print a bunch of plaques and make it really cool, we're going to put a verse on a coffee cup, what verse you think would be really good to have? What would be a good one for you? Here's one. How many days in the last month did you use a digital Bible? Like look on your phone or, your iPad or, read a verse or do something digitally. How many days in the last week did you do that? Let's see, another one. What do you think might be a key element or topic in discipling a person with addictive behavior? And this is just a really interesting one as well. What would be a key topic, a key element if we're starting to disciple people that have addictive behaviors? What might be something that would be really helpful for someone with addiction issues? And you get some good feedback from your people there. That's a good one. How many minutes a day do you think people actually pray? Boy, you'll get some wild numbers on that one. How many minutes in a day do you think people actually pray? Here's a good one. What might be one of the reasons some people will never, ever come to church? What might be some of the reasons, and again, kind of the open-ended, what might be some of the reasons people would never, ever come to church? And I wrote a thing on Facebook the other day, had a post out about how to bring people into church. And a guy who is now an agnostic and has run far from church left me a post about that big that said, and he went through all his reasons why people would never come back to church. And he says, this is why I left and I'll never be back. It's very interesting reading. So some good stuff there. Let's see. A couple more here. What is a verse that you have heard about that you probably should commit to memory? Okay, and this is the idea of like they may not know the verse, but it's the verse about peace in the storm or whatever. So have them just kind of describe the verse, or what is a verse you've kind of heard about that you think would probably be a really good one to put into your heart. And so people kind of start to share a little bit of what's going on in their heart with that. What are areas in the average church that you think need more volunteers? And you're not saying our church, okay, but in the average church out there, what do you think are some of the areas where people, what areas of divisions of the church might need more volunteers? Where do you think more volunteers would be needed? So anyway, that's just a dozen or so questions that I came up with that I've used. If you would like that list, go ahead and shoot me an email, and I'll get that to you, info@reachkeep.com. So ask for feedback. So begin to get feedback. If you're going to use these, become a feedback person. Become a person who's passionate about prayer. In other words, you're letting people know that you prayed for them. One of the things we regularly do, we take our cards, we have all the prayer requests, we have a staff meeting, we pray for everybody, and then what we do is we just say, hey, before we get going further with our staff meeting, go ahead and some of the people that you just prayed for them, go ahead and shoot them a text and say, hey, I just want you to know I prayed for your grandmother, I prayed for your kneecap, I prayed for your finances or whatever. And you become passionate and give feedback that you have been praying for that. So again, these are some things that are going to kind of help you do that. This one goes without saying, should be, but begin a person who wants signups. In other words, you want to know some signups, and you say, hey, we've got several opportunities on this card. Go ahead and check the ones that are going to work for you. And you might, when you start this, create a card that has like 5 different times that a person could come help and do something. And so that it's kind of logical that they would check one of those that they would like to come, rather than just saying, hey, everybody show up on Saturday and let's work. But say, hey, I'll come from 8 to 10, or I'll come from 10 to 12, or I'll come from 12 to 2. Have some type of signups, but begin to use signups, and then, of course, follow up on that. Hey, looking forward to seeing you at noon, 2 o'clock. We got some great things we're going to do. Don't forget to bring your gloves. Don't forget to wear paint clothes, whatever it happens to be. And this one, again, is sort of the one I sort of started with, but it's believe that your people have something important to say, and that you need feedback from them, and that you as the pastor, the leader, and your people need to become bonded together, and that their volunteer stuff is important to you, their prayer stuff is important to you, their needs are important to you, their ideas about sermons and favorite things, and ideas for working with people of addiction, that's good to you. And by the way, all these things create great discussions and really help your church have a lot of unity. So I want to take some moment here in the studio, just sit down and share a couple of those things with you. I'm going to wrap things up here, and back to the black cloth. Boom. We'll see you here in just a sec. Now, I hope all of this will be very helpful in helping your church to move forward in these areas of gathering data and recruiting volunteers and really just connecting with your people. And if you use these things faithfully as we have, you will find some tremendous benefits. If some of this is a little overwhelming, a little struggling to you, you may be interested in what we call our Back to Church online crash course. And this is just some training where we do some personal one-on-one coaching with you. And you can find some information about this on our website at reachkeep.com. You just go to reachkeep.com, put the slash mark, and type the word crash, which stands for crash course. Not crashing your church, okay? And a lot of churches actually, through the pandemic and all that, have crashed. And I think that's probably why we've sort of created that name. It's kind of the crash course to get people back into church. There's a lot of really, really helpful training in this particular coaching product that we do. And it's much more one-on-one Zoom. It's a higher dollar cost type of thing that you might be interested in. It might work for you. If you're like a binge learner and you really want to kind of move forward and get some things done, and you're tired of just watching a little video here and a video go there and it's time for you to move forward, then perhaps this would be for you. So go to the website and take a look at it. We're going to talk to you about how to use the cards, and specifically we'll be on the Zoom and talking to you about how they work in your church. We will help you with the idea of recruiting then workers and getting your kind of team together and putting all that together. From there, what we do is we move into this idea of sowing the seed in your particular community, how you can use social media and a variety of different things to reach out into your community, to be able to touch all the folks that are out there, because there are so many of them that need the gospel out there. And then we're going to spend some time helping you do what we just call the harvest. And if you come from a farm background, you know some of the greatest time of the year is harvest time. It's when you get to see all the seed coming into the hopper and you get to see all the grain there. And it is a wonderful, wonderful time of rejoicing. And we want your church to have that. If you're interested in that, reachkeep.com/crash, and that will get you to there. But thank you so much for attending our workshop here. If you like these type of things, stay in touch with us on our mailing list, open our emails, check things out. We do a variety of training things throughout the year. This is for you. We live to help local churches flourish in their community. And I get to spend nearly every day on the phone or on a Zoom call or even person to person, being out in the churches and helping them grow and learn to reach the new young families that are coming into their community. And we want to do that. And I know that's what you want to do too. You want to reach out. Now, we like to grow our churches through other people moving into the community and other believers moving in. That's wonderful. But there's nothing like reaching brand new families and helping them come to know the Lord. And the connection cards and all the workshops that we do at Reach Keep are here to help you do exactly that. So from me to you, let me just say we are here to serve you. If we can help you in any way, please contact us, and we will be here to do whatever it takes to help you to be successful in your local church. So this is Mike here at reachkeep.com, at sponsored by the Better Sundays podcast and part of the workshop, the online training workshop here for Connection Cards, signing out. So God bless. Have a great day.